TechOps on the Front Line, a new webinar series specifically geared for frontline managers in technical operations.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are today. And thank you for joining us for our first installment of On the Front Lines. I am Bob Knapp. I'm the National Chairperson for TechOps SUPCOM. And I will be joined today by Alan Borling from Operations Support. Alan is, there we go. How are you, Alan?
Very good, Bob. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. So, Alan, I've asked you to come here today and talk a little bit about some of the operations management initiatives. You are the strategic plan sponsor for ops management initiatives. And I'm wondering, what does that really mean to me as a frontline manager?
So operations management, the initiative, so the strategic plan was released about a year ago. And if you can all remember it, we released it. There was a video that came along with it. And in that video, we had, I think there was some animation with it that sort of showed you a glimpse into the future for tech ops. And as part of that initiative, or as part of that strategic plan, there are 12 initiatives, with ops management being one of the primary ones. It's the first one that's been approved by the board of directors, and I'm being told that Jeff Planey is now on the call, so I will cut my answer short and we'll let Jeff speak. So I'll finish what I'm saying in a couple minutes.
Hey, thanks, Alan. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for letting me drop in. I'm super excited. I won't take up much of your time. Really want to listen to the conversation about the strategic plan. A lot of activities involved in the plan, but I really want to talk about what Bob has set up here with the on the front line. So you will see a series of these. So as always, your input is important. It'll inform the next thing that we do. This is for the frontline managers to educate and engage. Bob, super excited about the first one. You know, and hearing from experts in the field like Alan about the things that mean most to the frontline managers and our entire workforce. So I hope you enjoy it. Bob, I'll be watching and listening in, so I'll let it go back to you guys.
So no pressure for me at all, right, Jeff?
There's going to be a lot of pressure for you, buddy. Come on.
Might I compliment you? Great choice on color of shirts today.
I know. Thanks for letting me know. Blue. Alan's got a little bit of blue on.
Yeah, we'll let him in.
Seriously, folks, these are designed to be high energy. We want to touch on the right touch points for you and inform. So as the webinar series goes, engage, ask questions, have fun with it, and stay tuned for more. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate the support. So Alan, if we could get back to kind of describing what does operations management mean for me as a frontline manager? How does that impact my world?
Okay, now I'll just start over because I can't remember exactly where I started. So the strategic plan came out about a year ago, and we've identified 12 total initiatives that we're going to try to categorize all of those tasks that were in the strategic plan. Operations management is the first one that's been approved by the board of directors, and it contains a few different things. So a lot of these impact the field significantly and directly. So the first one of those of that initiative, the ops management initiative, there are 3 sub-initiatives. So overall, the initiative lead is Brian McPhillips. I know he's on leave this week, so he couldn't join us. He's the NOG manager out in the sale. He's the initiative lead. And then for each of the sub-initiatives, we have a lead as well. So one of our big talking points today will be centralized airspace maintenance, planning, and scheduling, or CAMPS, as you'll start to hear it used frequently. That's led by Keith Patterson. He's the Indianapolis district manager out of Central. We also have the mobile technical workforce. That initiative or sub-initiative is led by Chris Huguenin. He's the acting deputy in Central. And then we have the integrated technical tool suite, which is being led by Michael Hartzog, and he is a group manager out of headquarters. So between those 3 initiatives, there's a lot packed into those. So the big one we're going to talk about a little bit more today is CAMP, or Central. You'll hear it, you've probably heard it phrased over the last couple of years many different ways. We talk about dispatching specialists, we talk about consolidating SSCs, centralizing our maintenance approach to things. All of those things are wrapped under the ops management umbrella. So I think, this affects everybody out in the field. It also affects a lot of our stakeholders. So as you can imagine, the way that tech support supports the field, the way that air traffic is going to be interfacing with tech ops, these things are going to change slowly over the next couple of years as we stand up this new way or new maintenance philosophy, new way of maintaining the NAS and responding to outages.
All right, great. And just for my own understanding, I mean, centralized airspace management and dispatching, those all sound like some pilots I heard about in some of the districts earlier this year. Has that got any connection to this work and this initiative?
Yeah, I want to say there is a connection, but they are different. So those pilots were done during the pandemic, and we are building off of those concepts and lessons learned to sort of build this new approach going forward. So we had a few different districts participate. I think there were 4 total. We had a little bit of dispatching done manually without the use of any sort of software solution done in one district. We were dispatching specialists from maybe remote sites at another pilot. And so we're trying to take bits and pieces of those to stand up, this future concept and then roll it out in some national standard. The pilots were done in pockets, so they were very district specific. Each district was doing things differently. The whole goal of this is to have a national standard, a national program and project that rolls this all up and implements it in a thoughtful and phased approach.
Oh, thanks. So I know at the National SUPCOM meeting at the end of April, you shared with the folks there a little bit more about camps. So could you share with us all here today really what camps means? What is that going to look like?
Yes, certainly. So I'll spell it out again because it's easy to forget what each letter stands for. But centralized airspace maintenance, planning, and scheduling. So really what we're trying to capture with this program is everything that's done within a specific airspace. So right now we're targeting each district because we realigned every district to match the RT airspace boundaries. That's the way we're targeting this project. So targeting all the work that a specialist, so a field specialist, a technician would perform, whether that be periodic maintenance, strategic corrective maintenance, safety write-ups, NASTEP evaluations, things like that, taking all of that work and having it centrally scheduled, managed, and planned from one specific unit within the district. So as we go forward, a lot of it is looking back. The NAS is not really sustainable the way we've done business for the last 60 years. We're always facing challenges with either budgetary constraints, staffing, training, you name it. There's always going to be some sort of factor that's making our ability to accomplish the mission more difficult as we go. So at a time when we had over 6,000 technicians, even further back, we had over 10,000 technicians way back in the day, it was easier to have that contingency locally so that if somebody called off sick, or if you had a few people that weren't trained, you were able to overcome it within your own local SSC boundaries. As we go forward, that concept just is not sustainable. So that's why we're looking at different ways of finding efficiencies. So the first and foremost one, our number one asset is our workforce. So the agency establishes what work needs to be done, and then we determine how that work is performed. So we've done a lot of work already, specifically between ops support and the PMO to align handbooks. So you've seen a lot of handbook changes over the last couple of years, many of them coming out of the maintenance posture of COVID-19. So we've aligned and really streamlined the work that needs to be done, at least from a handbook standpoint. The next big part of that really is how do we assign specialists to do that work? How do we align the maintenance so that every time you go to a site, you're maximizing the number of maintenance tasks or just tasks in general that you can do? As you look back, years and years and years, I was a technician at one time, I was a frontline manager. The way we assign maintenance and perform work out there varies a lot, but in general, specialists, their coordinators, and their managers spend a significant amount of time planning their own schedule. So they look at PM forecasts, they look at dashboards, they determine on what day, what work they're going to be doing, how much they're going to do, and how many hours they're going to request out of service. That's something that in economies of scale, we're proposing to up-level it to a new organization within the district. That organization will be separate from the SOC. The SOC will still be around. They're still going to be very tactical, dealing with interface with their traffic outages, things like that. But to a more strategic, management-driven organization, that's what the campers will be. The campus personnel, they'll be able to assign work, plan the schedule, do all those sort of things, and then determine the best use of resources. So really, you want to have the right people doing the right work at the right time. So to be able to do that effectively on a more corporate scale, you need to up-level that type of decision making and management of resources to something like the district level.
Thank you for that. So, I'm glad you segue into my next question for you. You, as you mentioned, you spent time as an SSC manager. You know the challenges of the position. From what you know of camps and being so intimately involved, what will this mean to the frontline managers' workload? We're always concerned about adding to the workload of frontline managers today.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most significant factor, or one of the most significant factors in making these decisions. Really one of the underlying goals of this project is to make life easier for not only the managers, but the field specialists. So there's between 4,000 specialists out there and hundreds of SSC managers. We've got a lot of crosstalk going on, planning, scheduling, arranging site visits, arranging fuel deliveries, all these sorts of things that goes into the hectic day that every SSC manager out there that I've ever known lives. So going forward, the way we want to get to is where the frontline manager can focus on the performance of their SSC, or whatever that looks like, rather than focusing on all these strategic scheduling and manipulating people's schedules and things like that, getting to where they can focus more on technician performance, observing technician performance, making site visits, interacting with their stakeholders, either be airport authorities or air traffic. That's the kind of work we want people to be able to focus on. So to be able for something like this to be a success, it's going to require some work on the SSC manager's part, but I don't think any of us are looking for it to be an increase in work. Really, it should be a trade-off. So by taking away all this coordination going on, adding it to this camps organization, allowing them to use an integrated software tool suite to manage this, it's going to be a huge efficiency gain.
Great. That sounds very positive from the frontline manager perspective, of course. But a question also comes to mind in this type of environment and moving the scheduling to a different group. How are we going to continue to accomplish ORM and keep that robust ORM culture that we've been working to develop?
Yeah, there's lots of ongoing discussion with the management team that's doing the camps planning work. So I think Keith Patterson, the lead on it, has mentioned, this is a topic ongoing because ORM is critical, and you don't want the employee with the most risk are the ones actually touching the NAS. So no matter what, technicians, they're the ones interacting with the NAS. They need to have those core principles where they're still concerned with the risk of what they're doing. They're still aware of who they're going to impact, and they're still communicating at least with the people they may impact. So that's something that still needs to be fleshed out. But I think there are some just analytics-wise or just stats-wise, taking away 4,000 people from the equation and 350 managers from it, up-leveling some of that coordination work, having the SOC and the camping organization work those things at that level will take away some of these errors we see just by eliminating the number of people involved in every single maintenance task.
Okay, and I'm sure you had ORM in the planning stages, so I'm glad to hear it's still being worked. This is a significant change in the way we're doing business, going forward, this vision for the future from where we are today. How is this going to be communicated to management and to the workforce as we move forward and you're ready to start implementing some of these new changes and processes?
Yeah, I think you need to have constant, consistent, and open communication about a project of this scale. We're talking about changing something, the way we've done business for as long as the agencies existed. So having frequent communication that's very concise, is consistent. So whether you're hearing it from a director, myself, a district manager, a leader in headquarters, it's going to be the same message. You're going to know the status of the program. So I think events like this are really important. The strategic plan website does have some slip sheets. They're like one-page briefings that you can click a link on. There's a little QR code on those. We've got monthly reports on there. I think there's many different strategies, videos like this, where we can help communicate this, because you really cannot over communicate. This is just the fundamental early stages of it. We have not even talked to the bargaining unit yet. We're getting close to doing that when it comes to, close to an Article 13 rep. So, if you are concerned that you're being left in the dark or you need more information, you go through SUPCOM, or you can come to somebody on the planning team, myself, Keith Patterson, Brian McPhillips, Mike Hartzog, or Chris Hugen, any of us, and we'll get you to the right person so that you can get the right information.
All right, great, thank you. Another question for you. We've heard a lot over the years about reliability-centered maintenance. Will camps include some sort of RCM in the future?
So RCM is already in existence. So we have an RCM order. I think it's the 6000.207. It was signed in 2016. And it's a very technical engineering focused order. A little bit of background, we're looking to revise that, but it's not going to be for a few months. Reliability-centered maintenance is focused on establishing a maintenance schedule that ensures the highest level of reliability. So I think camps is something that's very interwoven with it. They're not directly contingent on one another, but the efficiencies we can gain with something like centralized dispatching goes into reliability-centered maintenance. So rather than going out to a site every month to perform a monthly, in the future, when you have the right sensors set up, the right AI reading the output of these sensors, you'll be able to dispatch specialists knowing that there's an imminent failure. Right now, we're still in that primitive maintenance program. And it's funny we say that because it's very successful, but we're in that maintenance posture where we do almost everything based on a pretty strict schedule, no matter where the site's located. So moving forward, RCM and centralized airspace management, they have to really be hand in hand, moving in the same direction.
Okay, thanks. Again, we've mentioned this a few times, but as we know, this is a significant change to how we've been handling maintenance. How will we roll out camps? How will we transition? That seems like a very difficult task. Do we have a vision as to how that might go?
Yeah, so I think rollout is really, it's the most key thing here. So like anything, this is anything of this scale, it's not something we're going to flip a switch and then close our eyes and hope for the best. That we're talking about phasing in many different aspects. So we're talking about some technological changes. So we're talking about a software tool, implementing a software tool, being able to use that tool to determine workload, assign work, do that kind of stuff. That's a pretty big change. From right now, we allow people to determine what they're going to do every day. On the other aspect of that, just having another organization that sort of does this function within the district, that's relatively new. So we haven't paired those two together. We don't have a software solution in place, and we haven't piloted, a camp organization yet. But the biggest thing overall, those are technical things. So technical fixes, you can have people or money or time, you will be able to solve those problems. The biggest thing is probably a cultural challenge of the way we do business now. We've been doing this the way we have 60 years, 65 years. I came into the agency in 2001, so it's 21 years. I look at it and very little has changed in the way the maintenance program is done from 2001. So yeah, we don't use a blue screen MMS to enter our maintenance tasks, but really all we did was put those into graphic fields and move them into SAL and Event Manager and RMOS. So we're not talking like monumental change. The way we've done work and assigned work is still the same. We mostly have site responsibilities and people that back them up. It works in most locations. It doesn't in others. For a long-term, sustainable environment, we're going to have to look at different ways of doing that. And I think camps is really one of the big directions to support that.
Right, and I know we've heard that before. Change is difficult, especially in a organization where safety is really our main concern. So, and I know you and from a number of people, you're taking the steps to really plan through this. You've mentioned a few times tools and software. So what type of tools and software might be in the future to support this initiative and this new process?
I think that's where it's going to be a mix going forward. So RMLS and TAP, they're here to stay for the near future. We have a large scale program led by the Program Management Office climbers with specifically its AMMS. So that's the new logging system that's being developed. The time frame for that is pretty long. We're talking 5+ years until we commission it. So in the interim, there are things we can do to address the way we assign work. So really, AMMS is being developed. The requirements for it were not written to capture any sort of centralized, planning and scheduling and that type of stuff. There are a lot of vendor-driven solutions out there. That's what the team's eyeing right now. Many different companies make software tools. They're all pretty similar. They take into consideration many different things such as training, schedule availability, safety training, things like that, and can assign and prioritize resources based on that. So right now they're looking as one of the big solutions, this integrated software solution for a field service maintenance tool. But again, we're in the early requirements gathering stage. We've still got a ways to go before we identify any sort of impact, or any sort of specific tool, I should say.
All right, thanks. So is there an elevator pitch that you would go along with this program? What are the key points that you really want people to take away or know about camps and the vision of what this will be for the future?
Yeah, really, it's changing the way we assign work. This is one of the biggest undertakings we'll ever take. Believe it or not, it's our bread and butter. We're very proud of what we do and how we do our maintenance program. So touching anything with that comes with some hesitation, and it gives people an uneasy feeling. So really, we're not looking to compromise safety or, anything like that. We're looking to make things more efficiency while either retaining or raising the level of safety, if anything. So we want to be able to balance the workload of field specialists, alleviate the workload of field management. We've got a lot of technical challenges to overcome. As I mentioned, changing our culture and our policy and process. That's about, it's probably a twofold challenge there. So we need to be able to have you, the field, support this and be able to provide your feedback. So, it's not going to be success without your involvement. We need your involvement to provide, the good, the bad, and the ugly when we, start developing these tools, start testing them, everything like that. Again, it just goes back to this is a prime opportunity to make a change. We need the right people doing the right work, the right location at the right time. Keep saying the word right. But this all gears towards that. So.
All right, thank you. And SUPCOM will always be here to help give you feedback. That's one of the things we do. We've got a few minutes. I wonder, would you be okay if we took a couple of questions? I have 2 or 3 questions already here. People have sent in there. So
I love questions.
I'll start with a softball because it's one that you and I talked about already the other day. I don't know if you can answer it yet, but do you have a graphic or something that you can provide to show the changes that will be coming so people can see it and kind of see graphically what's coming?
Yeah, we had debated back and forth presenting it on here. So we wanted to focus on conversation in this first one. A big thing that I didn't mention is, the strategic plan, we've been in the planning stage. It's been management only up to this point. So the bargaining unit has not been notified of any change. We have not started the Article 13 process. So there is some sensitivity about the information. We don't want to prematurely release something and get people worked up that we're doing it, changing our working conditions when management has not decided the general direction of where we're going. We're getting close to that point where we'll be able to include an Article 13 rep. So anything that we share will be fairly sanitized. It'll be conceptual only. This is not, a done deal. Perhaps we're still working out some of the details of how these, these processes and organizations are going to fit into the software tool.
Okay, well, certainly appreciate that. And I think your answer also brings up another good point for us all to mention that nothing is decided yet. So, rumors always get ahead of fact. So good thing for us to remember. Another question that was sent in here, and it's one that we've seen before, even before we really spoke about camps and even centralized maintenance. But, has the team been looking at and trying to find ways to work through the issue of airport badging? When we use ATSSs that don't normally respond to a given airport, they may not have access and certainly may not have driving privileges. So I would hope you've got that working through.
Yeah, that's one thing that's under discussion. And it was identified early on as an issue specifically for for NavAids personnel, people or environmental, lighted NavAids personnel, people that have to actually operate on AOAs and drive on different AOAs. What is the risk benefit of having people drive on 20 different airports compared to just a few of them? Then you're mixing mixing different types of AOAs. You've got some core airports, they have their own specific training and badging program. So you're going to go to every single one of them and get a different badge and have those intervals. That is one of the big things identified up front that needs to be addressed. So they are working on it, hopefully looking towards a more corporate global solution rather than having people just spend hours of their day or days of the month going to different airports to get badging updated.
All right, thanks. One other question, just to be clear, the camps model, obviously that brings in some new positions within each district. Is that another layer of management? And will the SSC managers still be involved in scheduling of work, whether it's the preventative or the tactical responses to outages?
I don't think it's really another layer of management. These are not going to be supervisory positions. And again, we're still talking through staffing. So right now, the idea is these people will be non-bargaining because they're going to be able to look at work, determine who's going to do work, align those resources, and eventually, in an ideal situation, assign work to these specialists through some sort of mobile device. The technician comes in, or even better, they're remote. They look at their tablet, their device, and decide and look at it and go, okay, here's my tasking for this week. I need to go to these 5 sites. I have outages scheduled at these times. Here, I'm going to have some authority to do my work, but in general, this is what I'm going to do this week. So I think that's one big vision going forward. And I think the management official, the SSC manager's responsibilities, we want to get them out of having to constantly call techs and redirect them to respond to outages. Those should be more corporately done decisions. So I think some of the work we're doing, we've baselined response codes. We're looking at rewriting the restoration strategy to match up with service-based restorations or responses. These need to be up leveled because I think you've all worked in locations where maybe you have an air traffic manager or an airport authority that thinks that they're the most important priority in the NAS, and they apply a lot of pressure on you as an SSC manager to restore a facility that perhaps has very little impact or is not the highest priority in your SSC. So I know any of you that are fortunate enough to manage multiple facilities or deal with multiple air traffic managers know that pressure that you feel because it's just, you can't make everybody happy. That's something that hopefully we can get towards, that you have input on the schedule. You're going to tell us when these employees are available, when they're going to training, but you shouldn't have to be involved in every decision about restoration versus PMs versus scheduling an outage.
Well, thank you, Alan. I appreciate you sharing as much as we have today. I understand this is still in development and not ready to roll out specifics, but I think it's good to share the information because people are interested. Strategic plan came out. What are we doing? We hear some of the rumblings and really wanting to know what the future vision is. So I appreciate your time today. I know we're at the end of our time. So thank you so much. Thank you folks for who joined us today and for your questions. And, I hope you all join us next month. And as always, I am your Tech Ops SUPCOM chairperson. Please reach out with feedback, with suggestions for topics that you would like to see us speak about on the front lines. This is really meant to be a resource and a benefit for you. So I thank you.
Please join us for the next Tech Ops on the Front Line on Thursday, July 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we will discuss telecommuting within technical operations. Also, visit the AJW Strategic Plan website for more information. Thank you for your time. This concludes the webinar.